John chapter 5 verse 30, the Gospel of John. By myself I can do nothing. I judge only as I hear, and my judgment is just, for I seek not to please myself or do my own will, but him who sent me, but do the will of him that sent me. So you see, Jesus is saying, I can't do anything of myself. I don't do my own will. I only do the will of God. I only do the will of God the Father. So this proves that Jesus is not God. This is the proof that he's not God, Muslims say. Well, this is complete nonsense. Because why can Jesus not do anything of himself? Well, Jesus, he actually explains it 11 verses earlier. In John chapter 5, verse 19. Jesus gave them, Jews, this answer. Very truly, I tell you, the Son can do nothing by himself. He can do only what he sees his Father do. Because whatever the Father does, the Son also does. And whatever whatever the Son does, Jesus also and whatever the Son does, the Father also does the same. It says some verses later. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. So John chapter 5 verse 30, Jesus says, I can't do nothing of myself. I can't do anything of myself. I only do the will of the Father. So that proves that Jesus is not God. Well, Jesus, he explains it, as I said. I'm just repeating it to get my entire point across. Well, Jesus, he gives an answer 11 verses earlier in John chapter 5 verse 19. Jesus gave them, the Jews, this answer. Very truly I tell you, the Son can do nothing by himself. He can do only what he sees he can only do what he sees his Father doing, because whatever the Father does, the Son also does. And this is what he says in verse 21. For just as the Father raises the dead and gives them life, even so the Son gives life to whom he is pleased to give it. Moreover, the Father judges no one, but has entrusted all judgment to the Son, that all may honor the Son just as they honor the Father. Whoever does not honor the Son does not honor the Father who sent him. I also read 22 and 23. So what is Jesus saying? He is saying that he doesn't do anything, but he does the same what God is doing. He does the same what God the Father is doing. So Jesus and the Father, they both have a common will, because what the Son does, the Father also does, and what the Father does, the Son also does. So the one is doing the will as the second is doing the will as the first, right? So to summarize, what Jesus is saying is, I don't do anything, but I do the same as the Father he does, right? He does the same as the Father does. And no creature can say that. Nobody can say that they do the same thing as God does. God creates. And you can't say, I also create. You're making yourself equal to God. So this is what Jesus is doing, right? So he can do nothing by himself, but he does the same thing as the Father does. And this establishes the Trinitarian idea of that the three persons of the Trinity, they all have the same common will because they all share the one divine nature. However, they are three persons, right? So they are all doing the same will. So that's why Jesus, as a human, is saying, I don't have any will, but I have the same will as the Father. So I do the same thing as the Father does. And I hope that made you understand verse 30 better. Because Jesus, he gives an answer in verse 19. So to summarize again, Jesus, he does nothing because he has the same divine nature with God the Father. So they both share one common will. So Jesus does nothing, but he does the same thing as the Father does, right? And even if you look at the context, right? Even after this point has been established. After this point, after you have established this point, what does Jesus say just in John chapter 5, verse 25? What is Jesus saying? Very truly, I tell you, a time is coming, and now is, when the dead will hear the voice of the Son of God, and those who hear will live. So Jesus is saying a time or an hour, and when Jesus talks about the hour, he means the day of judgment. Very truly, I tell you, an hour is coming when those who are in their graves, they'll hear my voice, the Son of God, and those who hear, they will live. So Jesus is saying, the day of judgment is coming, and when it comes, those who are dead, they will hear my voice, and those who hear my voice, all those who are dead, they will be resurrected unto eternal life, unto resurrection. So there Jesus is claiming to be God. So if you look at the context, Jesus has the same will as the Father has, which establishes the Trinitarian unity of God, of God being one God but three persons. But Jesus, he repeats the same thing in John chapter 5 verses 28 to 29. What does he say? Do not be amazed at this, for a time is coming, or again an hour, for a time is coming when all who are in their graves will hear his voice and come out, and those who have done what is good will rise to live, and those who have done what is evil will rise to be condemned. So again, Jesus is saying, those who hear my voice, they will be resurrected. They will be resurrected because they hear my voice. So Jesus is saying, I will resurrect the dead on the day of judgment. Who resurrects the dead on the day of judgment? Is it not God? Don't Jews, Christians, and Muslims all agree that it's only God who resurrects the dead on the day of judgment? Here Jesus is saying, I will do it. I will do it. That means when you and I and everyone else, when all of us are dead, when all of us are skeletons in our graves, we will hear the voice of Jesus and we will be resurrected. That's not what somebody who is a creature says. And that's especially not what a true prophet of God says. Because otherwise he would be blaspheming. And a prophet does not blaspheme. So just read John chapter 5 verse 19 to destroy the Muslim abuse of John 5 verse 30. It's that easy.